the best you could do is you could kind of try to recreate it, but one of the great things about Firehouse subs is the ingredients are so high quality. Like I don't even know if I have access. I definitely don't have anything resembling the bread. So I have not tried this at all, but I'm very confident that it'll work. So yeah, bring it to you. Sorry, Jack, you're missing out on all of this, buddy.
We'll get him up in a minute. Don't worry.
I mean, just even when we get on there, he's gonna miss out on
a buffet of Firehouse subs.
All right, I think we're clear now. Jack, do you
guys got me there?
No. Yes, maybe.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, there we go. There's Jack.
Yeah, finally, I can speak for myself instead of you guys just talking for me there.
Well, we didn't say anything bad about you.
Oh no. Look, I wish I were there. I do. I love a good Firehouse sub, but I know you guys will be chowing down in my honor there while I'm not there. So
we most certainly will. Got some exciting guests lined up as well. But as always, we got to kick things off. And Ed, if you can find on the hotkeys the Sandstorm Minute and our short version of Sandstorm with our Sandstorm Pick Me Up. There it is. And the sounder as well, please. All right. Either way, it is time for your Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all 9s. I mentioned our exciting guest, Ari Rohde from Gamecock Softball, going to be joining us in the 10 o'clock hour for the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling Heating. Of course, softball, the hot topic of conversation this week, coming off the heels of their season, unfortunately ending in the Super Regional against UCLA. But Ari Rohde yesterday earning some pretty high acclaim in terms of the Rawlings Gold Glove Award, being recognized as the best first baseman in all of softball this season.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we know what Ari can do at the plate, and now she adds a little bit of hardware for what she's done defensively as well. So great timing on having her on today. Looking forward to hearing from her. Tyler, it was you and me, I think.
I believe so, yes.
We had Ari on last fall, and we were talking about kind of her vision for what this first season in Columbia was going to be. And if I remember correctly, she did have very high hopes and high expectations and all that. She'd just been introduced to SEC football. I remember we talked about that.
She's from Connecticut, I believe, right?
She's from Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
But
Rhode Island makes sense.
Fast forward to now, I mean, I would assume, hit about every single goal that she had put forth for herself. And looking forward to talking to her about what is next. And I've got some some off the field kind of fun questions as well.
Well, and Jack, Wes is right. She was very confident when we talked to her last fall, but I don't even think she could have predicted she'd be setting the home run record for South Carolina softball in her first season here.
No, I mean, she's been great offensively at the plate. I mean, she carries this offense in a lot of ways because, look, this team this year was not necessarily built on power. I mean, Ari was the clear leader in home runs by a long shot. And you look at what she's done defensively, too. I mean, we talk so much about her offense, like Wes said. I mean, she only made 2 errors this year and had a fielding percentage of .995. I mean, that's really, really good stuff right there. And get this, guys, with the award that she won yesterday with the Gold Glove at first base. For starters, she became the first player from the SEC to earn the award at first base. And then she became the first Gamecock in program history to win a Rawlings softball Gold Glove. So, look, she's getting it done offensively, as we all know. But I think defense is something that probably goes a little bit underappreciated, especially at first base. I mean, there were a lot of balls hit to her in the postseason that she's making plays on. And if she doesn't make those plays, then we're talking about different games potentially. So she's getting it done on both sides of the ball, and it's good to see she's earning some hardware for something like this.
Well, and I think that's a position, too. It a lot of times gets lost. How many errors can your first baseman save the rest of the infield from just being good at blocking the ball over there and scooping the ball in particular? Like, it's hard to play infield. it's hard to make all the plays you're going to have to make in terms of different angles. You're going to have to throw the ball if you're playing on the left side at third base or shortstop, and having that first baseman who will stretch out, who will pick the ball for you, who will make a play for you on the other end of that throw. Not only does it literally save errors at times, but it also, I think, gives you confidence to fire the ball over there in certain situations and not worry about it. So a lot that she brings to the table for this team, clearly that, maybe doesn't even show up in a box score. And I think the cool thing, guys, about, we talked about a lot of softball this year. We have the women's soccer folks on quite a bit too. The cool thing right now about, I think, in general women's sports is, yes, you still have the transfer portal, but I think if you want to and Ari herself is a transfer, but if you want to really follow a career of someone and maybe have somebody stay at your school for a while and really just get a little bit more ingrained than we see in maybe football. Softball is a sport where, you're not rushing off to the professional league. You have a great opportunity here at South Carolina. If you get a starting spot, which obviously she has, chances are you're going to stick around. So she came in, she made a name for herself, but the cool thing for Gamecock fans is she's going to be back next year. You're going to be able to continue to follow her career, support her career. And so it really is. I just feel like it's still a little bit more. Has it been professionalized to an extent? Everything has, but it's just still a little bit more of a pure, I guess, brand of the game right now compared to maybe football.
You know what I was just thinking as you were talking there about Ari, and you think of, the number of transfers that Ashley Chastain Woodard brought in from Charlotte. Obviously, she's one of them. Like that, it's impressive how those players developed here, but I think it really gives you a lot of confidence in Coach Chastain Woodard going forward, because, that was a big question everybody had, and I would guess a reason why people pick South Carolina last. Oh, a bunch of Charlotte transfers, Longwood transfer, etc. And she hit on those players in a big way. They came into the toughest softball league in the country and not only played well, but thrived. Look at the award that Ari just got, right? Look what this team did going into the postseason and being, an out away from going to Oklahoma City. Super impressive. And so it shows you that there's some chops there in terms of evaluating, getting SEC level players to Charlotte. That's pretty impressive. But now you're at South Carolina where you've got, more resources, more support. You're playing in the SEC. And so it gives you confidence that not only can she evaluate the type of talent that you need to play in this conference, but, when you're recruiting bigger name talent, even out of high school, that's going to help you a lot.
And Jack, to no one's surprise, the SEC once again dominating when it comes to the Women's College World Series that gets rolling a little bit later on today. Texas and Oklahoma squaring off in the first game, Texas and Florida squaring off in game one, Tennessee and Oklahoma in game two. Then Ole Miss, the other representative of the SEC, in the third game against Texas Tech, and the other two teams not in the SEC, Oregon and UCLA, squaring off the nightcap coming up at 9:30. So again, we talk about how strong this conference is, and when you kind of look at the fact that you had 5 SEC teams make it all the way there, Carolina was 1 out away, it again just highlights how special of a season this was for Ashley Chastain Woodard and her team in year one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, you were picked to finish last in the SEC coming into the year. I mean, the expectations were nowhere near, okay, you're going to be 1 out away from going to the Women's College World Series in your first year at South Carolina. And going back to what Chris brought up about the type of players she was able to bring in, yes, it helped that she came from Charlotte and she had a lot of good players that followed. But, I mean, she was able to retain a lot of the key players that she needed to. She was also able to bring in some other players from other schools, like Quincy Lilio from Oklahoma was a really nice add from a team that obviously has won, 4 straight College World Series now. I mean, she did a very good job in the portal bringing in players. And then you look at just what they did this season. It just all came together so nicely to where you were competitive in that first SEC series against Oklahoma, where you go on the road and you got swept, but you almost beat them in all 3 games. and then you're carrying it over the rest of the way, and then you go on that nice run here in the postseason. I mean, it's a really good building block for the future, and I don't feel like this is the last time we're going to be seeing South Carolina in these spots where they're not going to be coming up short. They're going to be able to get over the edge and finally get back to the Women's College World Series. May happen next year. Who knows?
Again, looking forward to talking to Ari Rhodey coming up at 10 o'clock for the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. But the main story around the SEC this week revolves around what's happening in the meetings down in Destin, Florida. Coaches speaking, including Lane Kiffin, who is keeping it simple when he thinks about the college football playoff. We'll dive into that coming up next. It is the Extra Point. It's our head, Jack Beltry, Wes and Chris hanging out here at Firehouse Subs in Camden, going up until noon here in the game. Welcome back in. Extra point, Gamecock Central takeover out at Firehouse Subs here in Camden. 2184 West Cab Street. Store opens up at 10. Come by and see us. It's going to be out here hanging out until noon. We've talked a lot this week about what's going on down in Destin, Florida, and the SEC meetings, focusing the past couple days on a lot of what Greg Sankey's had to say. And again, this is one of the more, I'd say, important SEC meetings in terms of conversation and what's going to be decided on potentially by the end of the week. But Coach has been talking to the media on Feinbaum and those kind of things. I want to dive into a little bit of what coaches have had to say this morning. And we'll start off with Lane Kiffin yesterday when speaking to the media in terms of his idea for a college football playoff and what the ideal format is. He's somebody that just kind of wants to keep it simple. Cut number 12 here, Ed.
I think I would just sum it up by, after all the data and analytics, about if there were these different systems over the years, who would be left out and who would be in, whether that was a 12-team, 16 system. And it just appeared to me that there's still flaws in every system. The best system should be 16 and should be the 16 best. And I don't know exactly how that's figured out. I think that they've got to use some of the indexes and have people, I'm not saying that because I'm in here, probably media people that watch the most, that are on it and don't have any other motives in it, and figure out the best 16 teams. Because we obviously can't play enough games over that, to be 32 or 64 or something to figure out the best. But I think as you watch this year in sports and now baseball, softball, after men's basketball, so many dominate, whether it's the final 8 or 12 or 16 with SEC teams, and their systems of figuring that out. And I think a lot of that has to do with the non-conference amount of opponents they play. Obviously we don't have as many games, so we can't do that. Because you see, for instance, baseball, these teams that have made it this far that have SEC and conference records just a little bit over 500. So I think that would be the best way to do it. Get rid of automatics and figure out a system to get the best 16 teams in.
Seems simple enough to me, but Jack, unfortunately, we know in today's world of college sports, simple does not always mean what's going to happen. And a lot of coaches kind of in favor of this same type of model, keeping it straightforward, but who knows if we're going to get there or not.
I actually like the idea, but here's the thing where you get lost in it is that 16 best. What does that mean? That Lane Kiffin's version of 16 best can mean one thing, but mine might mean another. Like we all classify 16 best differently, and that's how it goes. I mean, that's why you see in like the AP poll, for instance, or we don't get individual college football playoff rankings, I don't believe, but everyone has a different opinion when it comes to this stuff. And so I feel like that is a good idea, but also it could lead to a lot more chaos, a lot more issue potentially. And I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of the automatic qualifiers as well, but I kind of get where Lane's coming from with the idea of having it should be the 16 best teams, not the teams that, maybe got lucky a little bit, went on a run and won the conference championship and got in automatically.
Yeah, I mean, should there not be some, I guess, reward for winning your conference? Like, and in football, I mean, you can't. It's not like baseball where you really can. If everybody gets in the conference tournament, you could be terrible and then go on that run. You had to be some level of competent to even make the title game in football. Yeah. So, I think so. Lane within that quote also said, hey, some media guys who are watching all the games and don't have other loyalties, basically. Well, that sounds great in theory, but first of all, every media person also, no matter how unbiased they are human beings. They went to a school, they have friendships, they have developed sources, they have people in athletic departments that they know. And here's the problem. The people that know the X's and O's of football, like that can break down a team and give you a true kind of, this is a strength, this is a weakness. They ain't watching 35 teams play football.
Nope.
And when they're evaluating a team, they're evaluating if they're playing a team, they're not evaluating it like, oh, is this team better than that team? They're evaluating, can I exploit this defensive line? What coverage do they run? They aren't looking at it from that perspective. Here's the problem. So Jack's a beat writer. I'll ask Jack, how many, if you're covering a South Carolina football season on a game day, how many other games are you able to sit down and watch? You're focused on South Carolina most Saturdays, right? So, like, I feel like as much as I don't want to give in to AI and the computers and algorithms, that may be, I know there's some human element baked into that as well. But, I mean, Jack, how many games do you watch on a Saturday if you're covering a South Carolina football game?
From start to finish, maybe one. I mean, besides South Carolina, because you got to think about it. Like covering a college football team, as you guys know, on a Saturday, any given Saturday, usually takes up a good portion of the day. And it's not like you're able to see highlights and stuff, but you're not able to watch a game from start to finish because if it's a game at 3, you got work going on. So you miss the 12 o'clock games for most of it. And then if it's a night game, you're probably missing the first half of those games. So probably about a game. And maybe you go back and rewatch, but I mean, honestly, I understand where you're coming from, Wes, with the standpoint of, it's a flawed system regardless if you're having media people kind of make these decisions here with who are the 16 best, because you're truly not seeing the 16 best since most of us in the media are covering one given team.
Yeah, and then even if you watch a team, I could watch a team on one Saturday and be like, this is the day I'm going to sit down and watch South Carolina. If I was an outside party. If I watched them play Old Dominion, I'd be like, whoa, this is not a team that is going to make the top 16. If I watched them play Oklahoma, I'd be like, wow, when this team is rolling, they can beat anybody in the country. So football is so matchup based. It's so kind of week to week that I don't know who is sitting in there, just watching 10 games at a time, which you can't even pay attention to 10 games at a time. So the committee is flawed. The media is flawed. The coaches are flawed. So, and we don't have schedules that are remotely close to each other in terms of strength. So I don't know. Ultimately, to me, it maybe goes back to the computer. When you start talking about, my ears started bleeding just from my brain hurting when I'm reading the 4, 4, 2, 2, 1. If we've got more than 5 numbers involved in this thing and all these dashes, then we have gone too far. The 4, 4, 2, 2, 1 model refers to the amount of automatic qualifiers a conference would receive in this format. SEC 4, Big Ten 4, ACC 2, Big 12. Okay, we've already lost the plot in terms of that. Kick that format into the sun, and then at least the 5-11 is somewhat simple. Hey, if you win a conference title, the top 5 conferences, you're in. The rest is the best 11 at-larges. Let's plug it into a new updated BCS formula and get all humans out of this thing.
Yeah, that's the hilarious thing is for a while, and I don't remember what the conversation was with, hey, let's let the BCS determine. It was probably, let's take the human element of it out.
Well, because writers used to determine things.
We saw then we saw, the computer. We don't like what the computer's spitting out. Let's go back to the humans, right? And then what Lane said there, the part I do agree with, it isn't going to be perfect. And I think everybody recognizes that. I'm personally horrified of the idea of sports writers picking it. I know a bunch of sports writers. I'm one myself. I don't want to pick that, and I don't trust most of the sports writers I know to do it. So maybe it would be hilarious if the new AI playoff picker computer rebelled and just started picking random teams to put in it. But seriously, maybe that's a good idea, but it's been hard, and the clock's kind of ticking on this.
Yeah.
It's been hard to build consensus because you actually have to, if you're the SEC, you've got to figure out, are we staying at 8 games? Or are we going to 9 games? The league's ADs seem to want 9.
Mm-hmm.
The coaches want 8, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I can see for both of those sides why they want that. So that's another part you got to figure out.
Some programmer who's involved in putting together the algorithm is a diehard secret
Alabama.
Tulane.
Tulane.
Yeah,
and then
random
so
school.
Yeah.
Tulane starts just he
creep up.
he bakes it in there just enough to where it's not obvious. And he's
Yeah.
regardless of whatever the points are you add like 10 points to Tulane's final tally or whatever. And so Tulane just magically is higher than
Sneak in at the end.
at all times. They're just magically inflated on that.
The
I mean,
computers love
yeah.
Tulane.
like that would be a ESPN 30 for 30.
That's what people used to say is the computers loved certain teams. Is why they were always higher in the rankings.
It would be one of those things like a conspiracy theory now,
Oh,
and
sure.
then 2 decades later, it would be confirmed.
I could see it happening, honestly. Again, there's no perfect way to do this. And if anything, it gives us things to talk about and write about and those kind of things, which is to a degree why we love college sports so much. Other things coaches were talking about, including the transfer portal and potentially narrowing things down to a single window in the month of January. Will Kirby Smart's take on that coming up next? It is the X Point and Gamecock Central takeover live at Firehouse Subs in Camden. Store opens up at 10 o'clock. Come by and see us. Go until noon here in the game. call for All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point and Gamecock Central Takeover live at Firehouse Subs in Camden, 2184 West DeKalb Street. Again, store's going to open up here in just about 25 minutes, and we'll be out here going till noon. Come by and hang out with us, get a delicious Firehouse Subs, and talk Gamecock sports, as we always enjoy doing with y'all when we do these live Firehouse shows. Talking a lot of things at the SEC meetings for this week, including what coaches are talking about. We heard about Lane Kiffin and his thoughts on the 16-team college football playoff and what his model would ideally look at. Another main point of conversation revolves around the transfer portal and the potential narrowing it down to a single window in the month of January. Kirby Smart, talking on SiriusXM yesterday, had a pretty interesting perspective of, the way the portal works now and the coaches' gripes against them, saying, well, you aren't supposed to be crying from a yacht. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say.
Well, I don't care if it's one or two, really. I mean, I'd prefer one, but I'm okay with two. What I don't want is one in June. I mean, in April, because I think that's a recipe for disaster. And that's what we're starting to get pushed by some outside conferences that feel strongly that it should be in April. And I'm like, well, what are we doing January, February, March, in April when I try to build my team? My team's not built. Like, we don't
if
know.
I gave you the
team.
date to do it,
Wait,
you pick what day?
Coach, don't you have players kind of could hold you hostage at that point too?
Oh.
And they've already gotten a lot of.
It already happened.
Oh, by the way, we got to pay them the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, it's first I heard today that there was an idea of, well, instead of paying them those months, we wouldn't pay them. We would only pay them in the season, which is an NFL model, right?
Yeah, right.
You guys got paid, weekly by your games,
Right.
And I'm like, well, now we're talking about January, February, March, not paying them. They would just leave. They would just quit coming to meetings. If they were leaving, they would leave. Like, we need to get our team as quickly as possible. There's good and bad for both. Now, I don't want to act like it's lopsided because people feel like January you can't get them in school because everybody has a different academic calendar.
Right.
We've always had that problem. A lot of complaint. Well, we played in the national championship game and we missed this opportunity to get the guys in the portal. Hey, I did too. 2 years.
Right.
Nobody said, well, that's not fair. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of crying from the yacht. You can't cry from the yacht.
That's a pretty interesting way to put it there. But guys, we've heard coaches talk about this for a while now, and it does seem like the single window or portal window in the month of January is the most likely outcome here. It's still not the perfect way to do it, again, academic calendars and all those kind of things, but I think they would take that over what the chaos of the month of December and then post-spring has been, having December and April window these past couple of years.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, look, I think we do need to get to a point where we do have a one window and that's it. But I also understand at the same time why. I mean, look, some guys will enter the portal, they'll go to a new school in January, and then they'll go through spring ball, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. And then they have the opportunity to re-enter the portal and go other places at the same time. You can look at it from the standpoint of, maybe a guy goes down with an injury, or you have a case kind of like what South Carolina has here with Rasul Faison, not to make it about that. But as an example, Carolina could have potentially gone out and looked for a running back in the transfer portal in April as a backup option. So not to make it about that, but I'm just kind of alluding to the fact that, like, there's a reason why we have the April portal as well. But I think I would like to see this kind of just become a one portal thing, and that because it's just so complicated with having the two different ones, and I just think the one would be a lot better for everyone.
Can't cry from the yacht, guys. I don't think have y'all heard that?
No.
I've never heard that.
I've never heard that.
But
I get it. Makes
I'm
sense.
locking that into my memory now. Great one. And but it is I think some good points there by Kirby. And at the same time, are you going to be able to get this through the courts, basically?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know how all this works. Oh, well, I wanted to transfer in the spring. You have to let me. Okay. Now you can. So, like, how do we get the players to agree that, okay, there's one? The players have a lot of power now. How do we get them to agree they're okay with one portal? Like, they have all the power. The idea of, oh, we're only going to pay the players during the season is also something that will never pass. Because, yes, revenue share, if it ever goes into effect, will be direct payments. But remember when all this started, all this was under the guise of NIL. So if you're getting paid, you're not just getting paid for suiting up. You're getting paid for making appearances, for going to events, for signing autographs, et cetera, et cetera. How are you going to say, well, no, you can't be paid for that? Now, I guess you could maybe separate some of that stuff, but none of that flies until there's collective bargaining. Kirby can talk till he's red in the face, but ultimately it all is going to come back to, are you limiting my chance to make money? Yes. Our history recently shows us if the answer to that question is yes, then it can't be a rule.
Well, and even with the timing of it, right? I mean, and you're right. The actual answer to what you just said, I mean, you said it, bargaining, you have to have it in order to create a structure to do some of these things, because then you've got both sides, instead of fighting with each other, having 12 different ideas on every single thing, you've got one idea, one concept, one plan that everybody actually agrees to beforehand, right? And so that's actually what you got to have, because even if you say, hey, we're going to pay the players in season, I mean, try telling an agent that. They're going to be like, no, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to be paying them up front, or we're going to be paying them per month. So, I mean, I think it's going to be tough, especially without bargaining, to have one portal window, because I agree with you, Wes. I think you're going to have problems in the courts. The ideal scenario for me, though, and this would still probably have to be in a bargaining structure. I brought this up before. If you're going to have two portal windows, if you've signed a deal that carries you through the spring portal window, you don't get to participate in that, right? I mean, if you sign a deal in December, that's when a lot of negotiations going on. You sign a deal in December after the season. The team thinks, Kirby Smart thinks he's got you locked in. Shane Beamer thinks he's got you locked in. You don't get to go through 3 practices and say, oh, I'd like to renegotiate my deal. I've had a good week of practice.
That happens?
Yeah. I mean, you can't do that. So there's some give and take there. Now,
Sure.
Can you even try to do that within the current structure? Maybe so, because maybe it would fly and you wouldn't have as many legal challenges.
Well, we're seeing like some public pushback, like Arkansas saying, look, hey, we're going to try to I don't know if you can literally right now, the way it's structured, stop people, but you can maybe financially make it to where they wouldn't want to do that potentially, or you get some of that money back. But I do think that's an interesting point, because it separates, and in this case, it would be a good thing. It separates your guys who are in agreement. Like, hey, me, the staff, the coaches, the director of player personnel, we want you on this team. Player A wants to be on this team, and the financial component is what they were looking for. Everybody's happy, right? It separates that situation from the 4th string quarterback who the coach has said, look, you have your scholarship, you're on a roster, you're competing for a backup job, but we're not willing to lock into money right now. Let's see where things are. Then that guy is still able to transfer at the end of the spring window, because I think that's the one issue with getting rid of the spring transfer window. What about the traditional transfers who go through spring and they're 4th or 5th on the depth chart, and it's really truly maybe not about the financial component. It's just, I want to play, and coach just did the exit interview and told me I was 5th at QB.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah. I mean, if we're trying to, actually keep elements of college sports in college sports to where it's not just a business.
Sure.
I mean, that's one, you're trying to go somewhere and actually play. So, and I think an arrangement like that, it forces coaches and players and their agents and their families to all have skin in the game, right? To where coaches have to make decisions, players have to make decisions.
Yeah, obviously a hot button issue that's been going on for a while in college sports, and we'll see if that does end up changing anytime in the near future. Come back and wrap up hour number 1 of the Extra Point. We got one team that punched their ticket to the NBA Finals last night, and Aaliyah Boston met one of her favorite actors this week at the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll discuss that coming up next. It is the Extra Point. It's Outerhead, Jack Beltry, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark going up until noon here on the game. Welcome back in. Extra point. Gamecock Central Takeover hanging out live at Firehouse Subs here in Camden. Wrapping up hour number one. Jack, we don't have to spend too much time on this. Not a lot of drama last night in the Western Conference Finals as I don't know if thumping is the right word, but the Thunder destroyed the Timberwolves 124-94 to punch their ticket to the NBA Finals starting next week as they await the winner of the Pacers and Knicks series with their 5th game coming up tonight.
Yeah, this game was over at halftime. I mean, this was a 30-point deficit going into the break. And I mean, look, I think the Timberwolves probably just gave up on this series. I mean, you could just kind of just see it. I mean, Anthony Edwards only went 7 of 18. I mean, that's a guy that probably needs to be taking more shots if we're being honest. And it's just not enough. I mean, the Wolves have a lot of work to do this offseason to kind of get beyond this point. This is now 2 straight Eastern Conference final losses or Western Conference final losses for them. But then you look at the Thunder. They're such a well-built team. And you look at the fact that for the next 5 years, they're going to have 20 draft picks. And that's just crazy to think about all the work that's gone into this process. And they're just a real – I mean, the overall age of this team is 24 and a half years old. Just think about that. That's insane that they are making the finals with that type of team that's so young and deep.
So not too much drama in that one last night. Pacers likely should be winning the series tonight or in the next couple of days punch their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals themselves, which will get rolling next week. I want to dial back, though, to Sunday for the I believe that was game number 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Of course, they were in Indianapolis. Fever, I guess, were off that day, so you had a lot of the WNBA players in attendance, including our own Aaliyah Boston. Cut number 17 here, Ed, from yesterday's list. Aaliyah Boston got to meet one of her favorite actors at the Eastern Conference Finals on Sunday.
Oh! I want to meet him! No, I must meet Terry Crews. I should be like, hi, Terry. You don't know who I am, but I love me. Everybody hates Chris. He didn't play about his money. That's where I got it from. I'm telling you that. Hi! How are you? Pleasure to meet you. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. God bless you. Get a picture. You got to come back out for a Fever game.
So she gets to meet Terry Crews, who's famous for a lot of things. In her case there, everybody hates Chris. And her reaction is what we like to call fangirling, all right? You see your favorite actor or actress, and you lose your mind. I got to meet him, got to take a picture and all those kind of things. My question to each of you, what actor or actress would you be fangirling over the hardest if you saw them at an event? Fanboy, whatever. Jack,
Chris,
you go.
Chris, you want to go?
Chris?
Look, he tried to.
He's got to think about it.
I got to think about this.
So it has to be an actor or actress.
Whatever. It can be an actress, actor, whatever. Just somebody that you would lose your mind if you saw them in person.
So maybe people are like, I don't believe you. I don't think I've ever met. No, I've never met. Actually, I've met some actors and actresses that are maybe like B to C list.
Okay.
I've never met like an A list, but I have met like some like other like quote unquote famous like football coaches.
Sure. Yeah.
I honestly don't know if I would have a freak out or like a fanboy moment with any.
I guess very clear. Who is the actor or actress you want to meet the most?
Like if I like meeting like Tom Hanks.
Okay.
For me, I would be like, it's Tom Hanks. This is crazy.
Ed says Sandra Bullock. Good one.
Ed.
Jack, what about you?
Yeah, I like the Tom Hanks one. That is a good one. Honestly, he's not my favorite actor, but honestly, meeting like Tom Cruise would be kind of crazy.
Yeah. That would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
He seems like such an energetic dude. So I'd be cool with meeting someone like Tom Cruise.
That's a good one.
For me, it'd be either Zendaya or Selena Gomez.
That
would be mine. I would. I'd have trouble containing myself. Yeah, that's right in my generation.
Ed's pick of Sandra Bullock.
Hey, I would love meeting Sandy B too.
Keanu Reeves is another one.
Yeah,
he's a cool guy.
No bad options. Jack, we'll see you tomorrow, buddy.
All right, see you guys.
All right, Gamecock Club Hour coming up with Ari Rhodey next here from Firehouse Subs in Camden on the game. Tylerhead here once again telling you about our friends over at Twin Peaks. I tell you all the time, there is truly never a bad time to go hang out at Twin Peaks, but especially as we get into the month of June, starting next week, got a whole lot of things going on, including, as I just mentioned a moment ago, the Oklahoma City Thunder punching their ticket to the NBA Finals. We're going to await the winner of the Pacers and Knicks series to see who they're going to be taking on, but it all comes down to this. It gets rolling on June the 5th. Get down to the number one sports bar in Twin Peaks and catch every second of the final series in professional basketball and see who will take home that trophy when it is all said and done. TVs as far as the eye can see, tons and tons of delicious food, and of course those 29-degree draft beers. All this and so much more with our friends at Twin Peaks right down the street from us in the Vista. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Conrad, West Central, just started hanging out with the Firehouse subs in Camden. That song only mean one thing. We are joined by the one and only Ari Rhodey of Gamecock Softball. Ari, how are we doing today? Doing well. What's the story behind the song there for your walk up?
It was my walk-up song last year, and I just like to pick country music because it soothes me at the play. But I
Okay.
want something that's gonna make the crowd a little get hyped up. So
Yeah.
it was a perfect combination.
Would you say it was one of the more popular ones on the team?
I don't know if it's popular, but it's so different.
Catchy.
So
Sure.
Ari, we talked to you. It was last fall. I was trying to think of when that actually was. It was before your season had started. Yeah. You had kind of gotten introduced to SEC football. I remember that part. You were like, man, this stuff is awesome. So I was like, all right, I'm on the same wavelength with Ari here about SEC football. But you had like such high expectations for yourself, the season, Kathleen Woodard, and then it like all happened. What what has like this experience? I don't even know if you put it in words at this point. But what have like the last I don't know 6 months been like for you and your teammates?
it's been awesome. I wish there was a possibility and we could do more time together. But the belief and the friendship and everything that came from this season, it's hard to put into words, but we just believed in a small little dream, and all 21 of us believed in it, and everything happened. So it's so magical and something special to come up just in one season.
What were the conversations? There's like a lot of pictures going around social media and stuff, after the last game. And obviously, a lot of you coming back, some that won't be able to come back next season. But without going into like, you know, stuff from just the locker room that needs to stay in the locker room, but like, what were those moments like afterwards? Just all gathering together, getting through the season.
It was tough. It was quiet for a while, but Coach Ash came in and was like, "You guys realize what you just did? Like, you guys were picked last in the SEC, and you were one game away from Oklahoma City." So I think just having really good perspective on what we did accomplish this season was a lot easier for us to understand and take everything in from what happened this season. Ending it not the way we wanted to, but just being proud of everything that we did do.
And what are the emotions 4 days removed from an ending that you now kind of had the chance to look back on everything that you did accomplish and how magical this season was?
It's a lot easier to process now. In the moment, I was like, we were 1 out away, but now I'm just so grateful for the season that we did have and the experience that we had together and kind of the magic that we brought to Columbia.
Speaking of that experience, so regional stadium is packed, like high energy, super regional. It was like it maybe even took another step forward. What was that like? Just, being in that atmosphere. I got to imagine that's kind of one of those things you kind of dream of as an athlete, as a competitor. And how did you kind of walk that balance? Like, all right, I want to kind of enjoy all this, but then I've got to kind of get back to my training and not make it too much of a big deal. I've got to go perform as well. Just how was it playing in front of those fans and just being on that platform?
It was awesome. Truly eye-opening. I've played in regionals before, but I've never been the home team. So it was nice being on the other side of that. But you honestly just had to take a second before we went out for lines before every game and just look up into the crowd and just acknowledge all the fans that were there and take it all in. But then the second that the first pitch happened, it was game time. You tried to ignore it, but we obviously did feed off of the fans' energy. So it was a big help being at home.
When you look back at the season, and you mentioned Coach Chastain Woodard, what is it about now that you've played a season here? You've obviously played 4 before, but just here, what do you think were the buttons that she pushed throughout the course of the year and the rest of the coaching staff that helped put you and your teammates in position to do what you did?
I think it's their love for Columbia and for the university. This is Coach Ash's dream job. She's said it multiple times. So I think her passion just impacted us, and we wanted to play for her and play for something bigger.
We obviously, and again, Ari Rhodey from Gamecock Softball joining us here. We see Coach Chastain's emotion in her press conferences when she was introduced a year ago, in tears of getting her dream job, the emotion in unfortunately losing over the weekend behind closed doors in the locker room. What is that emotion like when talking to you guys, either before a game or after a game like we had this past weekend?
She's our biggest rock. She somehow knows exactly what we need to hear when we hear it. And if that's more of a fired up speech or, serious, like she just knows how to read us so well. And she's just such a mother figure for all of us, and she's so loving and caring. And I've been grateful to play for her for all 3 years, but you see the perspective from the girls who haven't had that sort of culture environment to play at, and they're just so grateful to play for her. So I think I've been so lucky to have my entire college career with her, but it's eye-opening to the people who haven't.
Speaking of that, all right, so I know we had you on last year. We also had Jory Hurd, who was, she's on the other side of that. They're coming in as a new staff. She's been here, but she's like learning, all right, are these people what they say they are? And I remember thinking, all right, they've got like this Charlotte contingent coming in. They've got a couple of, they got Oklahoma over here. They've got Emily coming in left field. And then they've got the returners. How's she going to make all this like come together and actually not be little cliques throughout the roster? And y'all said all the right things back then, but I was thinking that's going to be a key to this whole thing working. Obviously it did. But was there a moment maybe last preseason where you were kind of like, all right, everybody is kind of coming together as one team as opposed to these people from different groups?
Yeah, we had a team gathering, no coaches, and we kind of set out for what our goals wanted to be for the season. And one of the biggest thing was getting rid of all of the titles between the returners, the transfers, the Charlotte group, and coming together and saying, well, we're all here playing for South Carolina. So we're all part of the South Carolina softball team. So it doesn't matter who came from where, we all have one mission at this point. And I think that was the biggest turning point in preseason. And I thought that kind of reflected in some of our fall games. Some of the fall games in the beginning were a little bit rough, just trying to figure each other out. But then by the time our last fall ball game came,
mm-hmm.
it was starting to become seamless, and it was really eye-opening to see. And it was going to be like, oh wow, we're going to be ready to come out come February.
Who called that meeting? Like a players only type, or not meeting, but gathering? How did that just like come about?
I think it was the seniors. I think, in the senior group, you had all of those different groups of people, and
Right.
I think they were kind of tired of hearing it. And honestly, it was the best conversation we could have had, but I'm pretty sure it was all the seniors.
When you make the transition from Charlotte, and you guys played against SEC teams and stuff when you were there, but being in the grind of the SEC week in and week out, how big of a difference was that once you actually got into playing teams on a week in, week out basis compared to playing in a place like Charlotte in years past?
I thought it was a lot of fun because at Charlotte, our bigger games were midweeks. So to have that, energy built up every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was fun. It challenged you a lot mentally, but I love the competition level, and I thought it was so much fun.
Going back to what we were talking about a second ago, too, I thought it was kind of cool that you had, so even just right there on the infield, your middle infield are two, Gamecocks. I know Brooke transferred like early in her career, but she'd been here a while. Carly literally, I think, like enrolled early just to be here. And then at the corner spots, you had the two Charlotte transfers. Then you had Lexi. Then even your pitchers, you had Sam, who transferred in, but Jory, who had been here. And it was like it just kind of all came together. What was that part out like just there on the infield? And I know two-part for you here. The defense for you all, I felt like when y'all were on, like y'all made so many plays. There was like a synergy, I feel like. Where did that come from? Like I feel like y'all, especially throughout the postseason, like y'all outplayed everybody y'all played defensively, I feel like. And it was a huge part in that regional of y'all winning the thing. So how did that just sort of all come together like on the field, you think?
Yeah, I thought it was great to have Brooke and Carly up the middle, them having their connection. Obviously, as a middle infield, you need to have a great connection to, turn all those double plays and go back on balls. But then adding Ella and myself to the mix, I feel like it evened out both sides. You had the left side and the right side, and us two knowing how the coaches' systems work, but then Carly and Brooke knowing what it's like to play at Beckham day in and day out. I think we all just learned from each other. But, we pride ourselves on really good defense. We knew our pitching staff wasn't going to come in and strike out everyone, so we had to be behind them making all those plays. And, we just root ourselves in making the routine plays. But when you continuously make the routine plays, the plays that, you need to throw a little bit more effort at, they become a lot easier. So I think just our trust, knowing how good we are as well, like looking over to the person to your left or your right and being like, wow, they're really good. I'm going to have their back today and make this play for them. It was really freeing.
I remember when we had Coach on, I think before the regional, and we were talking about how great the defense had been. And there was like maybe one game, I think it was maybe in the SEC tournament, there was one game that was like uncharacteristic. And we asked her, like, how do you handle that? What do you do? And she said, look, we just we don't hide from it. We go back to basics. But I guess the question is, it just made me think of this. Like, what was it about the coaching staff that they were able to, obviously you guys were very talented on the infield too, but was it just they harp on fundamentals constantly? It's the amount of work you put in. Like, how were they able to create that environment where you could thrive defensively as a team?
I think their freedom for us to move how we want. You know, you go to all these other schools and they want everyone to feel the same way. Our coaching staff allows us to do what's most comfortable for us, and I think that comes with our motor preference training. But like, you see Brooke Blankenship making sidearm throws below her knee, and it's kind of crazy because if I think about doing that, it hurts my elbow. But you know, they just allow us to have the freedom to go out there and play how we want, and not, you know, make us into a mold of all feel the same way. So I think that helps with our confidence, and then the belief they just instore in us. They told us at the beginning of the year that we could have the best infield in the country, and you know, just knowing that in the back of your head that your coaches have that belief in you, it helps a lot.
Got a lot of things to get to over the course of the hour. Before we hit the break, though, our guy Mike Uva of Gamecock Central, who now works in Rhode Island in news up there, did want to pass along a Go Rams for your alma mater, because he is listening. And what, LaSalle, is that correct?
Yes.
LaSalle Rams.
Yes.
So yes, that's from Mike Uva.
Is that
up in
where
Rhode
Mike
Island.
went, or
I don't know.
no?
He's-
That's not where Mike went.
I
But
think he's just familiar.
he's very familiar with
Familiar with
LaSalle.
No, he's in Rhode Island, right?
Yeah, no, I'm
LaSalle.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah. Where did Mike go to high school? Is what
I
I'm
have no
saying.
idea.
Yeah, it wasn't Rhode Island, but
No, he's from Boston.
yeah, that's right.
But anyway, he is working in the area, so he
He's-
passes
he's
along
right,
Go Rams
yes.
for you.
Thank you, Mike.
We'll have more with our roadie as the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating rolls on live from Firehouse in Camden on your Thursday on the game.
Chris Clark here for our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating. As always, the presenting sponsor of the Gamecock Club Hour here on the game. So if you're looking for a local, reliable, and family-owned business to help you out with any of your home or business HVAC needs, make sure you reach out to him. Justin Krantz, their general manager, great guy, helping run the operations over at Krantz Cooling and Heating. That's Krantz, cooling with a K, krantzcooling.com, or you can give them a call, 803-672-3224. Financing options available, installation, maintenance, repairs. They can do it all for you. And I know from experience because I've had them out to my home. Again, that's Krantz Cooling, Krantz, cooling with a K, krantzcooling.com. Or give their friendly and helpful team a call at 803-672-3224. Since 1983, fine folks at Krantz Cooling and Heating have been serving businesses and residents all around the Midlands.
cooling and heating. Tyler West hanging out here at Firehouse Subs in Camden. Store is open. Come by and see us. Going to be out here going until noon for the next hour, hanging out with Ari Rohde of Gamecock Softball, recapping what was obviously a very, very special season for year one under Ashley Chastain Woodard. So you guys got started on the 20-game winning streak, which was the best in school history, obviously generated a lot of buzz. And you had this daunting task of going on the road to take on Oklahoma to start SEC play. You guys obviously came up short in those games, all by one run. But was that kind of a moment of like, hey, we really are good? Because again, when you're playing some of the mid-major teams, maybe it's not the best gauge of how you're going to fare in SEC play, but going toe-to-toe with the dynasty of women's softball, did that kind of really confirm to what you guys thought about yourselves and how good you could be?
Yeah, I think it took some time to realize that, though. We weren't going to take any moral victory and being like, in every game we were one run away from, beating Oklahoma. But after the fact, all of their fans were super nice, and they came up to us and was like, you guys are one of the best teams we've played in a while. We hope to see you guys in the SEC tournament or even Oklahoma City. So I think it took a little bit of time to realize how well we did play against them. And, I think that was a big turning point for us in the season.
So Ashley has talked about Katie Browder being, in her opinion, like the best hitting coach in America. And I know she's heavily involved in everything y'all do and kind of runs the offense, I guess you would say. What can you tell us about Coach Browder, just being with her, multiple years now, and maybe what she has meant to your career, on and off the field?
Yeah, Coach Katie has helped me so much. After my freshman year, I had to mature a little bit when it comes to playing and hitting and changing my mindset. And when she came in my sophomore year, she just allowed me to be myself and, took my swing, and we just made minor adjustments to it. But, she saw the good in my foundation, and, we just built more off of it. So all my credit goes to her. She's my rock when it comes to hitting and fielding. She knows me better than myself at times. So she's just so awesome. And kind of like I said with fielding, like just allows you to do what you want, and we build around it. So I owe all my credit to her.
Speaking of hitting and Oklahoma, actually, I remember there was a quote after that series from Oklahoma's head coach where she was talking about how they honestly had some trouble in the field against you guys because of just like the way that you make contact. Like, can you put your finger on like what she may have been referring to there, just like how you guys put the ball in play?
I think she's referring to spread charts because, you have some people like you assume power hitters are strictly pull, and I feel like our team is very even-rounded with working the whole field. So I think, you try to shift people, according to numbers, but also you can also spray one down the right field line and no one's there.
So obviously you end up setting the program record for home runs in a single season. Is that something you're tracking along the way? Is somebody telling you this? Like, when were you becoming aware that you were in the area of potentially getting this record yourself?
My teammates actually were the ones to tell me how close I was. I tried to keep it far out of my mind as possible, just trying to stay within the game and, let the success happen, not, like chasing after result. But I kind of, after I hit, I think 13 or 14, it kind of just went out of my head because, I started feeling a lot better in the box. So I wasn't really even thinking about it until the Alabama game when I broke the record. And I came in the dugout and everyone was like, you did it. I'm like, did what? Like, we're winning this game. Like, what did I do? And they're like, you broke the record. And I was like, what? So yeah, obviously not trying to, it's there, but you're not going to let it, paralyze you in the box.
I want to go back real quick to, you're talking about the spray chart, some of the data, without giving away all of y'all's like internal secrets. What it seems like this staff does use a lot of analytics and data and technology, but also at the same time, they let you guys athletically kind of just when it comes to movement, play the game the way you play to an extent. So how do you feel like they're able to like walk that line between, hey, we're going to listen to the data and give you guys the technology to succeed, but also let you sort of be yourself in how you want to play the game?
Yeah, I think I think our athleticism as a defense allows us to shift more because our infield has such great range. Even our outfield, they have strong arms. So it allows us to be in those strange positions on the field that you look out there and be like, why are there 3 people on the left side of the infield and only the first baseman's playing second base? I think our athleticism allows them to do that, but numbers don't lie, and we're going to use it to our advantage.
Speaking of that, again, Ari Rhodey of Gamecock Softball joining us here on the Gamecock Club Hour. What's the difference in the resources available to you guys this season at South Carolina compared to what you guys had at Charlotte in years past?
Honestly, I would say it was more off the field resources when it came to nutrition and academics was mind blowing to me. I had no idea that all that stuff was available, but luckily with the same coaching staff, they kept their systems the same. Obviously they had their own changes when it came to, data platforms and that stuff, but we didn't feel that effect as a team. So day-to-day operation felt pretty normal to me on the softball side, but outside of softball, it was really enjoying to have all those resources available as an athlete.
How important has that nutrition aspect been, you think, not just for you, but your whole team? It seems like in today's modern sports, all the athletes we talk about, kind of especially compared to high school where you're kind of just eating whatever, like every high school kid. And then you get in, like, wait, you start to learn all this extra stuff that could affect how you play on a given day. How important do you think that aspect has been for you specifically?
It's been huge for me. I know coming back from my injury in the middle of the year, I lost 15 pounds in less than a week. And, working with Josh and Jeremy, our strength and conditioning coach and nutritionist, they were able to get me back within healthy weight within 3 days of me being back playing. So it was mind blowing. And obviously I didn't have that I never dealt with that before, but just to go through that and have them there and the resources and being able to bounce back so quickly, it was eye-opening.
We've had some of the baseball players in here, and they've talked about the analytics and resources that have trickled down into the high school levels. What's that like with softball? How much of the stuff that's being used in college is in the high school level now as well?
Not a lot. I would say it's more on the hitting side than defensively. You're starting to see a bigger push with it for pitching, but you don't see travel ball team or high school teams using shifts on players. It's so hard because you're playing a new team every day. It's not like you can go out here and scout for 12 teams that you could be playing in a tournament. Like, we're preparing for one team every weekend, so it's a little bit different.
And I would think as like softball gets bigger and bigger, because it feels like it's growing as a game now, that especially at y'all's level, that data is available. Like, I'm sure your coaches can pull up any given opponent, especially at the SEC level. Hey, this is a scouting report, easily accessible for every player on that team. Is that the case that like that? Like, I imagine there's an Ari Rhodey file on there where they know the exact percentage that you've hit to right field, center field, your exit velos. Like, how much data is out there on any given player at the like Power 5 level, Power 4 level?
There's so much. Unfortunately, there's some out there on me. I wish there wasn't, but I think that's just the challenge of being in college. People are going to figure you out, and you have to every year you have to change yourself a little bit and develop yourself in some category that you've never really had to consider before. So I think that's the fun part about college softball is other people trying to figure you out, but you trying to develop yourself in a way that makes you different year to year.
What was your self scout this year? Like, what were they doing to you in the box that you had to say, all right, I'm going to adjust to this, and then make them adjust to me again? Was there anything specifically?
I did not see a lot of inside pitches when it came to SEC play. They worked me a lot outside, so just adjusting my inbox placement. I like to hit outside pitches into opposite field, but I'm obviously going to turn on one if it comes inside. So, just trusting my hands in that point that even if I'm on the plate, I can still get to that inside pitch.
Well, and I'm fascinated by what you said between how the coaching staff lets you defensively and offensively lean on what you like to do, what you're good at doing, versus using data, right? So for you individually, when you're going into a weekend, okay, we're going to play Oklahoma, we're going whoever, like how much of it for you is studying a pitcher or a pitching staff and kind of strategizing versus just see ball, hit ball? You know what I mean? Like, how do you balance that.
Yeah, I think beforehand with watching video on the other pitchers and going through all the pitches that they throw, luckily in the game of softball, most pitchers are going to throw multiple pitches. So if there's one pitch that she throws that's you don't like, she's going to have another one that she throws that you do like. So I think, just having the balance between, yeah, she has her strength, but she also can throw to my strength. So I think beforehand preparing for that, but when you get into the box, honestly, it's just see ball, hit ball, compete. Like if she leaves one hanging over the middle, like I'm gonna take advantage of that and swing. So I think that you can do all the mental preparation that you want of they're gonna throw this, this, and this, but they still have to execute and we still have to hit the ball.
All right, Rody of Gamecock Softball joining us today for the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. We'll have more coming up next, live from Firehouse Subs in Camden, going until noon here on the game.
All right, everyone, another one of our great partners here on the game. Our friends over at Integrated Media, Michael, Nathan, their entire team, do such a great job. Anything audio-visual that you may need. They've been out of Wes's home. They've been to mine. They can do anything that you need from an audio-visual standpoint. They're a true one-stop shop for all your tech needs, whether it's just making sure that your Wi-Fi is up and running all around your house with no dead spots, helping you source new equipment. You don't have to go to the big box stores to buy your new television or your wireless speakers. You don't have to browse the thousands of options on the internet. You can just go right to Integrated Media, integratedmediainc.com, or give them a call at 803-948-8327. And Michael, Nathan, and their friendly team can help you out. They can help you source the equipment. Then they can come out to your home or business and install it professionally. Everything from mounting a TV to complete smart home system security and cameras. IntegratedMediaInc.com.
In the moment, I was like, man.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler West and Chris hanging out at Firehouse Subs in Camden, going up until noon. Ari Rhodey of Gamecock Softball joining us here for the Gamecock Club Hour. We obviously talked about your home run record a little bit earlier. Made more history yesterday as the first ever Gamecock player to win the Rawlings Softball Gold Glove Award. Was this something you knew you were in the running for? How'd you find out about this? And what's the emotions of now setting another record for South Carolina softball?
Yeah, when all of the postseason awards come out, the coaches obviously tell us, like, we've nominated 5 people for this award and other people for this award. So I knew people on our team got nominated for the award, but I had no idea that was in consideration. I was actually in my exit meeting yesterday with the coaches when they told me, and that's where the video came up from social media. But I was very shocked. I mean, I knew I played well defensively, but you just never know with those types of things. But I'm really proud of myself. The coaches have challenged me over the last 2 years. I'm known for my hitting, but you need a really good first baseman to be successful at this level. So I've challenged myself to, focus more on my defense, and the offense will come along with it because, that's just my strength. So I was really proud of myself, and, it was nice to see the recognition for all the hard work I've put in.
Well, that's a position where it's not just fielding your position, but you can save a lot of errors for your teammates, which I'm sure makes them very happy with you. Can you kind of speak to that, like maybe taking pride in 'cause, I mean, it's difficult as quick as you have to get the ball out, as fast as some of these runners are. Your infielders are throwing the ball from all these different angles. So if you can save an out by picking a ball or reaching, that goes a long way in the course of a season. So how do you feel like you maybe improved in just kind of reading the ball in those throws and picking them out of the dirt?
Yeah, I think Cass Krupa has done a really good job working with me. Obviously, I played behind her for a year at Charlotte, and then we both came here to Carolina last year. Cass would work with me every day at first base, just working within my footwork, timing, picks, coming off the bag. So, it was almost like I had my own individual practice within team practice, working at first base. So I know a lot of credit goes to her for putting the time and effort in with me. But, I just have the belief that our infielders can get to any ball. So I just tell them, get the ball to me and I will get the job done. You see Brooke Blankenship making all these Derek Jeter throws, and, you just want the play to be completed. So it's just my job to secure the out at that point. So I think they do more of the harder work, and I just am there to, pick them up if they need it, because, those plays were game-changing plays. So they made the main effort. I'm just there to keep the ball in front of me.
What's your it could be one of yours, or you can shout out a teammate. You got a favorite defensive play from this year? Because there are a bunch of candidates, I think.
Oh,
We'll put her on the spot.
yeah,
Right?
this is tough.
Yeah.
I think collective team one would have been Q running in for the line drive against Clemson and picking her off at second base for the last out of the game.
Ended the game, yep.
But my favorite infield play was probably Carly Shelton diving into the 3-4 hole and then just lobbing the ball to me and making the pick. And I think that's my favorite because the umpire called her safe, but I knew, and I looked to the dugout with the headset motion. I was like, no, she's out. And then just seeing the joy of everyone when they came back and called her out, and, everything.
The Emily Vincent over the wall grab at Clemson was another amazing play. Is there because I feel like this motion, the headset motion, is like everywhere now. Like if you watch an MLB game, if it's a remotely close call, that infielder's like, do y'all have are y'all coached up on whether or not, do you have to know that that it needs to be reviewed, or is it more like if you think they need to look at it, you go like this? Like, is there a specific direction on when you're allowed to do that, or not really?
For me, it's like I know that the play, I can feel it. You can just feel when the runner's coming down the line, when your foot's on the bag, that you can feel the runner touching the bag too. So I feel like I only do it when I know for sure. If it's a close play, they will look at me and I'll be like, I truly don't know. So I only do it when I full-heartedly know that the runner's out.
He mentioned Major League Baseball next year. We're anticipating they're going to have the automatic ball strikes in the regular season to be able to be reviewed like they did in the spring this year. Is that something that softball you think could look into as well?
I'm not sure. I think you might be seeing that more on the professional side once, like, that league gets more developed. But I don't think you'll see a change in college softball when it comes to that.
Now, if you're in the batter's box and the umpire calls a strike that you think is a ball, you're saying something, you're looking at them, what's your reaction to those kind of things?
I know in my head, like every day at practice, we're doing ball strike recognition. So I feel like I have a pretty good, gauge on the strike zone, but every umpire has their own strike zone. So usually I'll look at Coach Katie and I'll be like, I think that was a little low, and she'll just nod her head in agreement. But at that point, he's going to keep calling it the whole game. So you just have to adjust your plan to whatever they're calling, but not letting it affect you emotionally.
Do y'all have like some telepathy going on out? Like, I feel like watching if you go to one of their games and you watch like the first base coach and the third base coach, they're over there looking at each other, and it's like they're talking to each other in their heads. When they step out and look at the third base coach, it's almost like nobody's saying anything, but y'all have made eye contact. Like, is there some kind of like, you know what I'm thinking and I know what you're thinking going on?
Oh, 100%. I think it's you can really see it through the coaches. I mean, they've coached together for a long time, even though they've been separated for a little bit and then they've come back together, but they all have a past history at Ole Miss. So getting to see them work together is really fun because it's like they never took a day off with each other. But I think just being with each other day in and day out, they know exactly what we're thinking, and they can read our bodies and our faces more probably than we can realize. So I know Coach Katie can read my mind, and I don't even know what I'm thinking. So it's really fun.
This is probably an even better question for the coaches, obviously, but just from your perspective, watching, just the team that Coach Chastain Woodard's assembled, and maybe being a part of some of their recruiting, when players come in on visits and things like that. What do you think maybe the ideal player is? Position player, right? Different than pitcher. But what are maybe the traits that you think this coaching staff really, really values in a player?
I think at this level, everyone is good and has their fundamentals. So I feel like for us, it's a lot different when we recruit. We're looking for the culture and the people, like how you are as a person, because you made it to this level, you can play anywhere. So we're looking for people who want to play for Carolina, want to play for a passionate coaching staff who shares the same love for you. And, they just come from a good family, because you think that doesn't have an effect on the field, but it really does. So it's more about the right fit as a person than a player. And then you're playing, evidently, if you're in a healthy environment, your playing will come along.
How involved have you been in the recruiting aspect? I know they're picking the players to go after, but I feel like when you were on before, you had maybe hosted some. Did we get those players? First of all, like, did you do your job?
We got a couple, yes.
Okay, all right, good job. But how involved are you or just your teammates in? I know the coaches are going to talk to the recruits, but do y'all get to be involved a good bit and just like, hey, this is what the program's all about, and getting a feel? I'm sure y'all get an even better feel for who these prospects are as people, because y'all are going to be around them during the weekend when they're here, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so for the high school recruits, they come and stay with us on campus. So we get time away from the coaches to talk to them, and kind of as an experience of like, we've been through this, what you're going through, we kind of ask them some questions that like they maybe don't even think of, but like we thought of after the fact and wish someone asked us. So it's like, what are you studying? Like, school has to be a priority, because yeah, you can go out and play softball for 4 years and have the best time of your life, but what are you going to do after that? And what are you looking for in a culture? Do you want to be a part of something big, or do you just want to go out there and play softball? So I feel like for the high school recruits, we're a lot more involved than transfers, but the transfers, the coaches usually take the reins on that, and we'll help when needed if they ask us, reach out with a text or something, but that's Jody's lane, and we'll let him do his job.
We'll come back and wrap up the hour with Ari Rhodey live here at Firehouse Subs in Camden. Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating here on the Game. And Wes Mitchell hanging out here at Firehouse Subs in Camden, going up until noon. Ari Rohde of Gamecock Softball hanging out with us here for a few more minutes. You were telling us your favorite sub here, by the way, is the meatball. That's your go-to, right?
That's my go-to.
All right, we're going to try something new today, too. We got your meatball over there, but are we going to dive into one new sub over there?
I'll do one more.
Any thoughts yet on what we're going with?
Maybe the turkey bacon ranch. I don't know. That's a little too basic.
It is very basic. That's Tyler's favorite.
That is my favorite.
We all have our number ones.
That is my consistent go-to. It never lets me down. Anything with bacon, you can't really go wrong with it.
Or anything with ranch.
Or anything with ranch, too. Wes goes with the brisket add bacon. That's his signature.
You know,
I mean, all the subs here are good,
They
obviously.
are.
So
Yeah.
I promise turkey bacon ranch won't let you down.
Okay.
Yeah, so, all right, let's close this thing out on a high note. What's coming up next? I know you got a little bit of time off, but you were telling me you're going to be playing some summer ball. So tell everybody out there what is next for you. And then, of course, before you know it, you'll be right back here getting ready for senior year, right?
Yeah. So in June and into July, I'll be going to Colorado and Canada to play with Triple Crown. Dave King just throws together a team that goes and plays against international teams. We're all just a bunch of college players from all different schools. So it's really fun just getting to throw yourself out there into a new environment, but then also getting the experience of playing some international teams.
Now, will all those games be here in the States, or you actually get to travel around the world for some of that stuff?
We'll go to Colorado, so we'll play against professional teams. So I'll actually be playing against Sam Gress in a game,
Okay.
which will be fun. I hope she doesn't throw. But then the rest of our games we played in Vancouver, Canada.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, you will have, you've scrimmaged against Sam before, right? So
Yeah.
what do you think that would be like? What are you going to be laughing as you look at each other? Like, if you face her,
I think I might be laughing, but I know she will not.
she will not. Oh,
She
she's
will
going to be
stone
bulldog
cold.
mode.
Yeah.
So who has the advantage?
You know,
Careful.
it's tough to say because in the 3 years I've known Sam in live at-bats and scrimmages, we have gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This year there was a little lull though. She had my number for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I get her with my little jam shots because, every team does it against. They don't get flush contact and somehow it just finds a way to drop. So I got her back a little bit with some jam shots. But in the past, it was like she would get me out. I would get a hit. It would just back and forth.
What were you thinking as she was laying out for that ball in the infield? Game 1 of the Super, I think. I mean, we've seen her. She tagged that girl out, diving for her too. I know the staff's over there stop diving, but that was a beautiful play. You don't see pitchers just making that play. I feel like.
Yeah, growing up, I was told, especially if you're a PO, your uniform shouldn't be dirty. That obviously doesn't go towards Sam. She's just an incredible athlete. In her past years of college, she's played every single position but catcher. So, I trust her with the ball to go for it. But in the moment when she was diving for that, I just thought about the cut she had on her hand from the tag she made for the prior week. So I was like, "Are you okay?" And I looked down and her hand was bleeding, and I was like, I was trying to be, controlled, but also try to get the attention of the coaches and be like, "Hey, she's bleeding. Can we get someone out here?" without letting the other team know. But she has full reign, and as a defense, knowing with all the crazy shifts that we do, we could all be so far away from those little dribblers and little blue pop flies. Just to know that she's on the mound and she can make those plays, it's really easy. And you put your full trust into the shift.
Anything away from softball are you gonna be doing for fun this summer?
I'm going to watch my boyfriend play in his regional this weekend.
Where does he play?
He plays for the University of Rhode Island.
Okay.
They're going to Baton Rouge, so
Very
I'm going
cool.
back to LSU.
Oh,
Wow.
Okay, that would be a great environment, though.
Yeah,
I feel like that'll be fun. That's cool. How much do y'all bounce kind of sports ideas off of each other versus just keeping that to the side? Do y'all help each other a lot out in terms of on the field stuff?
During the summer, we train together. We go to the same gym, and we'll hit together every day. But I think we use each other to our advantage because I've had experience at the college level. He's in his freshman year, so kind of the innocence of being fresh to the game kind of reminds me of hey, I used to be like that, enjoy the game a little bit more. But then when something, going through a slump or something comes up, it's more of me making the
Mhm.
statement just because I've been through 3 years of this now.
What position does he play?
He plays first base.
Okay, perfect.
Who's the better defender? Okay. Who's the better hitter? All right.
Well, I
Love
was,
it.
I would say, is he setting
He's only-
program records?
He's only a freshman,
Yeah.
so we'll see what he does.
He has time, but
He has time, but
as of
yes.
right now, it's me.
Now we
You're
get
racking up the
now,
awards.
now we have a team to cheer for in the
Yeah.
baseball side of things. Well, Ari, thanks for hanging out with us, and it was so much fun watching you this year, and can't wait to watch you next year as well.
Thank you so much.
That'll do it for the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour live at Firehouse Subs here in Camden. Go until noon on the game.
All right, guys, let me tell you about our friends over at Classic Roofing. Been telling you about them for over a year now. If you own a home or a business, you want to make sure that your roof is just taken care of. That can be a little bit challenging, but you do not have to do it alone. Our friends at Classic Roofing are the go-to residential and commercial roofing company here in the Columbia, South Carolina area. If you already have issues or you need them to come out, go ahead and give them a call today, 803-590-7870. Or just go to classicroofingsc.com. And even if you aren't having issues, if you go to that website, you can hit the free estimate button. They're going to come out. They're going to give you a free extensive look at that roof. They're going to let you know how much life you have left on that roof. They're going to let you know, are there any problem areas I need to take care of now? And, of course, just give you that peace of mind that your roof is covered. Again, classicroofingsc.com is the website. 803-590-7870 is the number.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that'll work for now. Yep. 11 o'clock, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris, we're hanging out here at Firehouse Subs in Camden. Appreciate Ari Rohde again for hanging out with us the last hour there, talking all things softball after what was a fun season, obviously. Hate that it came to an end. Would much rather she wasn't available today because that means they would have been in Oklahoma City getting ready to play in a couple of hours. But no, tons of excitement around Gamecock softball and what year number 2 is going to look like under Ashley Chastain Woodard. Time to jump back into the football conversation, though. Joining us now on the Love Chevrolet phone lines from footballscoop.com, our guy, John Bryce. John, as always, appreciate your time, man. I have to ask, are you in Destin for the SEC meetings this week?
I am not. I've done those meetings probably 10 or 11 times through the years. And while it's been an eventful week, I've been happy to cover them from afar and not actually have to travel.
Well, it's funny because, and I think Greg Sankey alluded to this on Monday, he spoke to the media like 12 times this week, but usually this is just where everybody gets together, talks a little bit, and spends more time hanging out on the beach. But this week there are actual pressing matters at hand when it comes to formats and scheduling and NIL and transfer portal. This is definitely the most interested I think everybody's been in the SEC meetings probably in quite some time. Am I correct on that?
I think you're absolutely correct on that. And to your point, it's been the most organized and transparent that it's been with the media, just in terms of used to be we had to sort of lurk around the hotel lobby there and hope to catch a few minutes with coaches or administrators. And this time it's been much more planned and scheduled out. You've had formal times to listen to guys in the ballroom or to hear Greg Sankey's latest soliloquy or things of that nature.
John, Chris here, man. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you as always. You know, you've covered this league, as you mentioned, for a long time. And I saw a couple of tweets and, other social media posts and some writings that some of Greg Sankey's comments that he made this week, some folks were the opinion that he maybe threw more darts than usual, that, he seemed to get almost angry at one point during his conversation with the media in relation to some of the playoff conversations. What do you make of all that and his public comments that he's made in the past few days?
Yeah, I think he has been angry. I think he probably, to a certain extent, feels a little bit betrayed, especially by what he called coordinated press releases that were kind of issued against the SEC. And especially depending on who you talk to, it sounds like a lot of this 4-4-2-2-1 format maybe originated in the Big Ten, and yet Greg Sankey has sort of been positioned this week as the guy who's had to answer for it much more publicly. There was not this sort of media coverage last week from the Big Ten meetings in LA. It was hard to tell unless you talk to people who were deliberately going. It was hard to find much coverage out of the Big Ten meetings last week in LA, whereas you've got a horde of media that has descended on the Florida Panhandle this week. So I think you're right. Sankey's had some very pointed comments, and I think at the root of it also is Sankey's a little ticked off that the SEC isn't at the king of the football mountain right now, at least not in terms of the national champion.
Again, talking to John Bryce of footballscoop.com, and Chris and I had this conversation earlier on this week, and this kind of stems from the frustration that Greg Sankey did show when talking to media a few of those times. His job is to make the SEC as profitable as possible, to make all of the member institutions as rich as possible from TV deals and all those kind of things. And he does a phenomenal job at that, which is why he has had the job for as long as he has and will have it for a long time to come as well. Greg Sankey's job is not to look out for the greater good of college football, and I think a lot of people get that misconstrued. He is there to serve the SEC, which he does very well, and the greater health of college football, not the highest on his priority list.
No, it's not. I mean, he has a constituency to deal with, and it's 16 institutions scattered from Texas to the coast. And so you're right in that regard. I do think that it's probably been a little surprising to Sankey this week that his football coaches weren't necessarily all falling in line about the 4-4-2-2-1, that they're very happy to say, yeah, give 5 bids, automatic conference champions, and 11 at-large bids, and let the chips fall where they may. I think that a lot of these college coaches are hearing from their peers around the sport. They're like, why do there need to be that many carve-outs? And the example I've used guys, is that how long did the ACC absolutely dominate men's basketball? And in a much larger tournament field, it still dominated men's basketball, but was yet never guaranteed more than the one auto bid. And so I think that coaches are probably realizing as competitors, they want to feel like it's earned on the field from the end of August through the end of November or the first week of December. And I also think that there's some recognition there out of the fans that you're going to turn a lot of people off if you have a bunch of auto bids predetermined before the season ever kicks off. And then I would not discount the fact that to go to the auto bids, these coaches know that they are going to have to play a 9-game SEC schedule. And you still got a lot of coaches in the SEC, especially now that Nick Saban is gone. He was the most vocal for wanting a 9-game schedule. You still have a lot of coaches in the SEC who don't want a 9-game schedule. How many fewer wins would Kentucky have if it had to play 9 SEC games instead of adding to its MAC conference slate every year?
John Bryce always good for a dig at Kentucky, which is one of the prime reasons.
He's
that
not
we like to
wrong.
have
They have more cupcakes than anyone, it feels like.
But that was where I was going to go next with this is, and Shane Beamer's talked about this, John, that, hey, if we're going to go to 9 games, okay, but if you're South Carolina, you play Clemson every year. They don't seem to be going anywhere. They're going to be in the playoff hunt. They're going to be a top 25 at worst team, it seems, for the foreseeable future, and probably much better. And then you play, Virginia Tech this coming season. You got Miami on the schedule in the future. So if you're South Carolina, you're going, okay, you want us to play 9 SEC games plus 2 more Power 4 games. We got 11 Power 4 games on our schedule. How is that sustainable? So I get that. But I guess my question to you is, who wins out here? If the administrators and the ADs want the 9-game schedule, I'm sure they have their reasons, like money, but the coaches don't want it. Like, who do you think wins out in that conversation?
I think that I don't think we're going to get an answer this week at all. But I just think that there's so many vocal opponents to the 4-4-2-2-1 model, and I'm certainly against the 4-4-2-2-1 model because, again, the point is made. That's the SEC limiting itself, and there have been plenty of seasons since the playoffs started in 14 or so where the SEC would have had more than 4 of the top 16 teams. So I just think it's unnecessary. I think it's a little short-sighted from a revenue standpoint that SEC leaders are so adamant on wanting the 4-4-2-1 format, because I still think that there's a way that there's more revenue out there if the SEC is willing to let this be a true 11 at-large bids with 5 guaranteed bids, because I still think there's a path where plenty of years you would have more than 4 SEC teams or more than 4 Big Ten teams. And let's look, Big Ten had a third of the field last year, but only had the 1 guaranteed spot. And nobody said too much about the field itself being wrong. I thought the seeding was terrible last year, and they've already moved to fix that, because I think ultimately Oregon is the only seed that would have held among the top 4 if it had been the straight seeding format that we're going to this year. So I hope that if there's a compromise, and that maybe it's the teams that go play for the conference championship are both guaranteed to get a spot, and only the victor is going to get the obvious better seed in that scenario. I could see that. I could see you making a carve out to truly protect your 2 teams participating in the conference championship are both in no matter what, and the one that wins gets the higher seed and the better path in that regard. But I hope there's some common sense, and that it's not more preordained before the season ever kicks off, because college football is beautiful because of the unpredictable nature of the regular season.
You mentioned the conference championships, and if we were to go to this, 4-4-2-1, 5-7-8, 11-12, however many model, that would pretty much kill that, and we'd have these play-in games. But the big argument for the 5+11 is you can still preserve conference championships, have an automatic qualifier, and if anything, you're playing for seeding at that point. When you're talking about the SEC and the Big Ten are likely going to get both those teams in anyway, how much influence does keeping conference championships have over whatever the future of this format is going to be?
Well, as you guys have already alluded to, the influence is what does it mean for revenue? And, a lot of these conferences are tied into these cities, and it means a lot to them. Atlanta, I know, has benefited tremendously from a financial standpoint, from a revenue generation standpoint in that city for hosting the SEC championship pretty much nonstop since the mid 1990s. And I know that Indianapolis counts a lot on having the Big Ten championship there every year, and it's never drawn the numbers that the SEC event has, but it's still a significant revenue impact for downtown Indianapolis in the heart of Big Ten country. So it all comes down to dollars and cents. Those conference championship games will be preserved if the cities are able to bend the ears of the conferences involved and the money proves to be worthwhile for all parties involved. The ACC championship has not been a big monetary boon for anywhere that's hosted it, be it Charlotte or the couple of times it's been down in Florida or wherever. It has not been a tremendous moneymaker whatsoever. The SEC and the Big Ten championship games have been far more profitable in that regard.
John, a couple more minutes here, man. One more thing to hit on while we got you from SEC meetings. There's obviously been some conversation about the transfer portal, right? Kirby Smart, for instance, has talked about having one window. That seems to be the preference of the SEC's coaches. Now, of course, there's some problems. If you try to limit one window, does that limit to one window? Does that cause more issues in court without a collective bargaining agreement in college sports, et cetera? But what are your where's your head at in terms of what's most likely to be recommended or to be implemented in terms of the portal going forward?
Yeah, I think that it will be recommended for one single window, and I think there's more support overall for it to be either in late December or January. I've seen maybe a model of January 2nd through January 12th, but I talked to a different power conference GM this week who said he very strongly favored it being like the last 10 days of December or somewhere along that line so that you're not sending out revenue checks in January. And a guy, his point blank said, I don't want to give a guy a $25,000 or $50,000 check at the first of the month of January, and then he leaves us on January 8th because he goes into the portal, and we've just paid all these guys their monthly stipend, and then they still leave us. So I think you've got to look at the timing of it in that regard. I was at the DFO meetings at the first of this month down in Dallas. There was considerable support, I would say, from some Big 12 schools and some Big 10 schools to have that portal later in spring and then do those OTAs. I know somebody from NCAA headquarters also talked about the late portal window being able to facilitate some OTAs for teams. And obviously Kirby Smart spoke out very strongly against that format.
And John Bryce, footballscoop.com. One more before we let you go. How much sunscreen do you think Feinbaum has to use on the top of his head when doing a show there on the beach every day?
Man, he needs to go ahead and just pay tribute to Bobby Bowden and get one of those old Panama Jack hats and drop that on his dome because that looks dangerous. And that's something that needs to be adjusted in the future for sure.
I worry about him every single year they do that because he looks redder and redder every single year. He is John Price at footballscoop.com. Appreciate your time as always, and we'll be checking with you more as the season gets closer.
Absolutely, boys. Have a great summer.
And we are broadcasting live at Firehouse Subs here in Camden. Store is open. We got sandwiches on the table. Smells great in here. We're going up to noon. Come on, hang out with us here on your Thursday on the game. All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you here at the Firehouse Subs in Camden. Going up until noon, trying some delicious sandwiches as always. Appreciate our guy Larry Chandler who is here with us today, as always, for allowing us to be out at yet another Firehouse Subs location. And appreciate John Bryce as well for joining us there from footballscoop.com, talking about what's going on in the SEC meetings this week down in Destin. As I said yesterday, we're going to start a new thing as we count down to the start of the season. It's time for some more trivia. Chris, get your headset on. We've got another edition. By the way, 94 days away from kickoff. We have to recognize the greatest to wear the number 94 for South Carolina, our guy Preston Thorne.
Yes.
The greatest 94 this program's ever seen.
I agree.
That any program has ever seen.
Any program's ever seen.
No contest. Nobody, second, the gap is huge.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah, there's it.
Is this a Preston Thorne question?
It's not a Preston Thorne question, but it is Preston Thorne days until kickoff. So we had to recognize our guy if he's listening.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
He does listen sometimes.
He does listen.
Yeah, he does.
And hey, sometimes he shows up too to the show. So Preston Thorne days away from kickoff, which leads us to our question, which is about the 1994 season. South Carolina won their first bowl game in the 1994 season, the CarQuest Bowl over West Virginia.
I thought he was going to ask.
What is the CarQuest Bowl known as today?
Gasparilla Bowl.
What's your guess, Chris?
Since Wes said that, that's probably what I would have gone with, actually. Not even kidding. So I will go with that. My backup will be the don't they have one called the Bad Boys Lawnmower Bowl?
Well, that was the Gasparilla Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
So that's the
okay.
title
See,
sponsor
so I'm
for Gasparilla.
tracking.
Wait, so if we're both right,
Wait, the
There's-
Gasparilla Bad Boys.
The
Lawnmower?
Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. Yes, it's the
Okay,
best bowl
so I
name ever.
commingled. Okay, that's right. I'll go with that.
You're going to go with Gasparilla
wait,
Bowl?
is it who says it first, or do we both get credit if that's
No,
it?
you would get credit. I
Okay.
don't get credit.
You're both wrong, by the way. It's
0 for
not the
2.
Gasparilla Bowl. It is actually the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the CarQuest
my.
Bowl. Now, the I think
Is it really?
yes,
No.
is now the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So it was in 1994 played in Miami at what was then called Joe Robbie Stadium, now Hard Rock Stadium. They then moved to Orlando, where it now is known as the Pop-Tarts Bowl and Camping World Stadium.
Okay. That was a hard question.
Yeah.
Honestly. Are you going to have an easy one at some point? Probably not.
Maybe.
I mean,
Well, see, here's the thing: is I'm going day by day and finding something significant about each one of these seasons, trying to test you guys.
well, let me throw out a trivia question.
Sure.
Okay, I have my own for both of you. Can you name a number 94? Obviously, Preston Thorne the best.
For Gamecock football?
Yeah.
Xavier Hardy.
Wes, you got one?
Any or just like
Any?
94? It's tough. I thought,
Didn't MJ Webb wear 94?
yes, good.
That was
yes.
the one I came up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
The funny thing, looking back at the schedule from 1994, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, that I think the Mississippi State game was on pay-per-view. 4 pay-per-view games, 3 games not on TV for South Carolina. We've come a long way. And most of the
So
games
three not on TV at all.
Three
you
not
couldn't
on
even
TV
pay
at all. So that season, you could not watch unless you were in person. East Carolina, Mississippi State, and then Louisiana Tech. All those games at Willie B. Pay-per-view was Arkansas, Kentucky, LSU, and Tennessee. And then they played Georgia on WIS. They played Vandy, Florida, and Clemson on Jefferson Pilot, and the bowl game was on CBS.
So I know people like to complain a little bit about streaming. It's only on SEC Network Plus. We got it pretty good in terms of being able to watch anything.
Super accessible.
Like,
and you couldn't, it's not like let me go read about the game on Gamecock Central. Gamecock Central didn't come around until 1998.
Yeah, you were having to wait to the next day's paper to see if they beat Louisiana Tech.
you were listening on the radio.
Or listening on the radio.
Which is cool, actually.
Yeah, that works too.
All right, I'll throw this trivia question back at y'all.
All right.
Who was, I think, the only, but we'll just say it like this. Can you name an All-American from that West Virginia football team.
Oh God.
1994
Four.
season. And
He
All-American.
he went on to be one of the best, probably even most high profile guys at his position in the NFL.
Can we get a hint of the position?
No,
No.
that's
Okay.
part of the
West
Virginia. No,
I got
I
nothing.
got nothing either.
Todd Sauerbrunn,
Oh, Todd Sauer.
stud punter. Y'all remember him?
Oh, I remember him.
Big old dude.
Big.
How long did he play for in the NFL?
I have no idea.
I
I just remember he was their star player.
Yeah, that one's not ringing too many bells for me. Of course, I was -2 when this game happened.
Yeah, they got a good punter, Steve Spurrier.
Hope to see him a lot. All right, 0 for 2.
There
Cool.
you go. Well, hey, do I need to make the questions easier?
That'd be hilarious. No, I'm actually.
No,
actually,
leave them.
If you're because it scares me more that you bring a quote unquote easy question and then I whiff on it. That'd be worse.
Because again, you had a 1 in 40 chance of getting it right because
I just
there's
hope we're
so
not
many bowl games.
0-95 when we get done with this thing.
If we are, we will stare it right in the face and,
And look,
lean
you,
into it.
You guys can study up on this beforehand. You know what year it's going to
There's
pertain to the day
0% chance
before.
of me doing that.
No. All right, 93. So will it be on the 93 season?
It'll be either on
No. It will.
So
yeah, so we do have to hurry up.
It's the season, 1993 tomorrow for 93 days till kickoff. It'll either pertain to South Carolina football or something general about college football in 1993. If there's nothing interesting about the 1993 South Carolina football
Can't
team.
name a 93. Yorick Jones.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Not off the top of my head, actually. That's who I would have said. I just keep saying that. I would have said what Wes said.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make Chris go first on everything.
I'm just worried that you're going to get into the 50s and start asking us questions about the 50. What happened in the 57 season, or something like that. You're going to have to.
Part of the fun.
Out. Okay.
Now, eventually, I will switch to more modern eras once we get down into the 20s and stuff, more recent teams. So I'm not going to ask you about the 1919 South Carolina football team. We'll go to 2019.
That's good.
I think that's when you guys will start picking up your points at that point in time.
Yeah, they probably had a 5'11", 160-pound left tackle on the
you know what
19 team.
Our guy Tommy Moody could have told us everything about that guy.
Yes,
to be honest.
Yes.
By the way, I know I wasn't here the week that it premiered, but watching In Spirit the other week and the whole thing was phenomenal. But seeing our guy Tommy Moody talking about the chicken curse on there, that
when he popped up, I kind of got
was
chills
nice
a little bit.
That whole thing was just if you didn't tear up in that one, you don't have any emotions.
That's what we talked about when you were out, Tyler. Wes and I were talking about the moments that kind of got you the most.
Yeah,
they had some Tommy Moody like home run calls.
Yep.
But then you just boom, there he is on the screen, and you're like, oh man, miss that guy a lot.
Absolutely, and that was obviously well done. If you haven't seen it, it's streaming on the ESPN app. We'll get back at the conversation about formats. We'll make our case: computers or humans. Which side are you going for? That's coming up next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, live at Firehouse Subs in Camden, going until noon here on the game.
All right, guys, this show presented by, fittingly, Firehouse Subs. We're still here in Camden for another 32 minutes. How many have we eaten so far?
I've got 2 down so far.
2 down, Chris?
Yep.
3. I'm working on my
pickles as well.
second. Yeah, still TBR leading the way.
TBR leading the way. Your brisket add bacon is
climbing the charts.
I had that the other day, actually. It is. It's up there.
Ari had her meatball sub. She gave it 2 thumbs up. I think she tried your TBR as well. So everything is good here, just like it is every time we're out at Firehouse Subs. Again, come on by, see us. We're in Camden, and guys, I'm like ready for this read to be over with, so I can keep eating. I don't know about y'all.
I'm ready.
Yep.
If you are ready, Firehouse Subs Rapid Rescue, firehousesubs.com, or download the Firehouse Subs app. You can get yourself some rewards towards future purchases, and you can order at any of the 15 convenient Firehouse Subs locations.
Yeah, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris out here at Firehouse Subs in Camden, going up until noon. Come by and see us. We are sampling the sandwiches of the day. I just finished off the spicy Cajun chicken. That's my wife's favorite one.
Yep.
She got that the other day. She loves heat, spicy kind of things. Got jalapenos on it. Kind of fell apart. The chicken kind of slid between the bread, so I've kind of had to pick my way through it. But I got it done.
Got a little. Get a fork.
Yeah, well, I just use my fingers.
That's fine too.
That's why I got. There's tons of napkins here, so I'm.
Yes,
I've cleaned myself up well.
I'm embarrassed by how many napkins I've used so far. But
A good
put down
sandwich
number
is a
4.
messy sandwich.
Yes, exactly.
Better than not using napkins.
Better than not using napkins.
that is true.
Absolutely. Obviously, the conversation this week has revolved around what's going on at the SEC meetings and the future of college football when it comes to NIL, when it comes to transfer portal, and of course, the college football playoff format: 4 + 4 + 2 + 2 + 1 + 12 + 8
Plus pie.
or hey, 5 + 11, something a little bit more simpler. We'll see what they ultimately decide on. But we still are in an era with a committee. And Wes, I know you've been a really big proponent of maybe going back to a computer type of model and algorithm like we had with the BCS formula back in the day. It's a perfect opportunity for today's edition of Hit It, Ed, Make Your Case. Let's make your case. Computers or committees? Wes, would you like to go first?
Computers.
Why?
So,
Case closed.
yeah, hit the gavel.
Yeah.
Game over. No, so here there is a fallacy in this, and that is that even the computers rely on polls.
Yep.
So the BCS, I hope this is right, because ironically, this is an AI summary that just popped up on Google.
A computer talking about computers.
Yes.
Yes. If y'all will remember, maybe you do, maybe you don't, it involved the AP and the ESPN/USA Today coaches polls, computer rankings, strength of schedule, team losses. I didn't know this. Is this real? Every loss a team incurred added a point to their final BCS rating, and quality wins.
I believe the AP poll was removed in 2004.
Okay.
So it involved other polls, but I think the AP for the last 10 years wasn't a part of it.
But there were polls
Yeah,
involved.
there were polls.
So in this case, but though you're more talking about like do a poll, and then we're hoping by adding in all this other information that we're not giving so much power to just one group of dudes sitting in a room trying to. Here's the thing: even if you could sit at home, this is part of my case. So the coaches are coaching, the media people are covering the game of the team they cover, and the national people are watching whatever the few biggest games are that week. Have you ever done the whole man cave thing or the multi-TV thing where you pull a couple other TVs into your living room?
Sure.
Try to watch 3 games at once. It's a great idea. It's great in theory. It's great if you have multiple people over and you're having a little party. Somebody might want to watch a different game. You cannot. It's hard enough to focus on one football game. You can't focus on all these games. So no human being can watch all the games and come up with I would say, a valid ranking. So I think, unfortunately, because the schedules are not even and because they never will be, the best way to do is to plug it into some type of algorithm, some type of formula, and then try to, it won't eliminate it, but try to just mute some of that human element.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And, when you look at the human element, remember last year they would pass around, hey, here's a photo of the committee. What city were they in? Where were they hanging out?
Texas.
They're
Grapevine,
somewhere-
Texas.
Grapevine. And you're like, man, does anybody have a computer? Are you watching the games? And remember the talk about we don't have data points. And you're like, all right, what are these people actually doing? The idea, I said this earlier today, the idea of like the media picking the teams to me is horrifying. I definitely don't want that. But also, I think you make a good point, Wes. Like, cool, if you're going to get a computer to run it, that's fine, maybe. But to go back to the word data points actually, like what are you using? And so if you're looping in like the coaches poll, I don't know if I want the coaches poll in my new algorithm. So literally, what are you taking? Now, one, I think counterpoint, play devil's advocate to myself. If you do expand this thing out to 16 teams, and if you come up with some type of new model, which they're going to come up with, whether that's the 5 plus 12 plus 7, whatever, like, will that make this, even if you have humans do it, will it streamline it to where it's a little, there's going to be controversy every year.
Sure.
No matter what you go with. But will it make it a little bit better? I do think that's possible. But I do like the idea of having a computer do it if you can input things into the computer that are objective as possible, right? I kind of think that's my ideal scenario.
For me, I want to say the committee is the right way to do it, but I just don't know what the right makeup of the committee is. Because as of right now, when you look at the College Football Playoff Committee, it's a bunch of athletic directors. Yeah, there's a couple like former coaches in there and things like that, people that have been in and around the sport. But for the most part, it's people I don't feel like have the best judge of what is actually taking place on the football field. And yeah, these people work in athletics and all that kind of stuff, but understanding the X's and O's of the sport, I really don't know how well these athletic directors know it and can really assess game control and strength and strength of schedule and those kind of things to really put out a surefire list. And again, what that right combination is it all former coaches? Is it a mix of former players, former coaches, and people that don't have as much of a interest in it as sitting athletic directors? Because guess what? If I'm an athletic director for the ACC, I'm going to advocate for ACC teams because that helps out my school and my conference as a whole. So again, it's those things of personal interest that hang me up with the way the committee is currently constructed. If we could come up with a perfect way, again, there's nothing perfect, a better way to get a group of people, 13 in a room, that can really talk about it. Because again, computer is great, but again, I do think the element of how you perform, the eye test and all those kind of things are important that like a BCS formula can't do very well. That I do think a committee is the best way to do it. I just don't know how you make up that room of 13 people perfectly enough to where you don't have as many flaws as what we have with the committee now.
Do those people exist?
I don't
on the planet. Like who watches football enough that doesn't fall into those other categories? Why are you watching football?
Yeah.
Because you have a passion for it. If you have a passion for it, you're connected to somebody.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't watch, if we're just like, hey, we're going to get an outsider to the game, then they're not going to know what they're watching for.
Yeah.
I don't know who exists on the planet that fits that.
Yeah. And kind of going back to like your arguments with computers, you'd have to come up with the right combination formula, whatever you want to call it. Because back in the day, you had people that manipulated the BCS formula with their scheduling, with the wins they had that weighted more than others. Obviously Boise State was always somewhere around the top 5, despite not playing as tough of a schedule as teams in power conferences. So there's no, I think, perfect answer either way. Again, kind of meet in the middle to some degree if you combine the two, which is kind of what the computer polls were, back in the day. But I guess the real answer is there's no perfect way to do this, unfortunately.
Well, and I wonder if it might be, if you're thinking about, okay, what type of, if there's any human data that goes into a computer formula, do you restructure that? So instead of like kind of a BCS model where, okay, it's the Harris poll,
sure,
it's the coaches poll, maybe you restructure a committee and have the committee's rankings go in it.
I wish there was truly a way, because again, we get caught up in logos as much too. Like, oh, hey, that's Alabama, that's Texas, and obviously what they do for viewership and those kind of things. If we could really find a way for a committee of people to look at nothing but blind resumes, where we don't know who these teams are, we're just looking at records, strength of schedule, the number of top 25 wins at home versus wins on the road. If we could truly figure out how to do that, where you're letting the least amount of bias creep in, I think that'd be the best way. Again, that's just easier said than done.
Yeah, it is. And, I think one of if you said, all right, here is the way we're going to do it with a computer algorithm, people are going to want to know, okay, what all goes into that?
Yeah.
And the super the math majors, and I mean that in a literal standpoint, like the people that sort of know how to run these models are going to say what the models are going to say what here's what is important,
Right.
and us regular people are going to say, I don't know what that means. Like, what are you talking about? And then so if you said, all right, well, we're going to make all this very public, and then what's going to happen, you're going to lose your ability to do that show build up every week, which is a big part of this, I think, being able to put it on ESPN and have your hosts get up there and preview it and then reveal it. Because if you tell people exactly what's in the formula, people will recreate it. And then they will tell you, hey, this is the projected top 25 right now, and it's going to be the exact same as what's going to pop up on your screen.
And
so,
you can't have a proprietary.
that's what I'm saying. But you're like,
either.
oh yeah, it involves a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
People
Now,
be like,
could you get away with saying it involves all these factors, but we're not going to tell you the percentages?
That's what the committee does right now.
They can keep a secret factor that nobody knows about that gets added in where you can't.
Bama gets
bucket,
10
right?
points extra.
Yeah, sure. It's always going to be Alabama over everybody else. But again, the committee's not going to go away. It doesn't seem like that's all kind of baked in the college football playoff. But especially with how much data we have out there, could you introduce more analytics and computer type of stuff to help make the process easier? I don't know. We'll obviously see. But that's a debate that we'll continue to rage on. We'll come back, wrap up the day here at Firehouse Subs out in Camden. Tyler, West, and Chris going until noon here in the game. All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris been hanging out here at the Firehouse Subs in Camden all morning long. And as always, excited to be joined by our guy, Larry Chandler, owner of all the local Firehouse Subs here in the Columbia area. Larry, thank you once again for letting us hang out and enjoy some delicious subs as always.
Definitely. I love talking food with y'all. So even more than sports, I think.
Chris was giving you his
Don't
his
give it away.
idea.
Don't give
Not
it away.
gonna give it away. But he has some thoughts on what the Chris Clark sub is eventually going to look like.
Larry comes in, we just start throwing
Start
ideas.
throwing
out.
ideas,
How about
man.
this? How about this?
Then he tells us the logistical reason
Yeah.
why. Well, we might have to do
Who
have to
really needs
edit the idea
Yeah.
a little bit.
Who really needs a test kitchen in Jacksonville at the corporate office? We got
Oh.
y'all.
we
There
can
you
do
go.
it here.
We
Yeah.
can do
I'm
it here.
for it.
Yeah. Larry's kind of like the engineer, though, because we have to, pun intended,
Yeah.
they have a sub called the engineer. But we come in with all our crazy ideas, and he's like, all right, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can't. We'll
Yeah.
hold off.
Yep. Larry, what are we gonna do for 3 months, man? Sports wise,
Yeah.
softball just finished.
Yep.
Baseball we won't talk about. Football
Every-
around the corner.
We're undefeated on everything. We're good.
Right now, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But when June hits, though, it seems like it just flies. And
Yeah.
July 4th, then it really just takes off, I think. 'Cause we're not that far away. What, it's 94 days?
94 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Shout out to Preston Thorne, greatest
Yeah.
94 that's ever
yeah.
graced Gamecock football.
100%. Yeah, I think it'll go by fast, and we'll be ready to roll. But yeah, we'll talk about all the games we're going to win, and like I did last year, we're going to go undefeated in football without a doubt. In soccer, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to run the table, national championship.
Yes.
So men and women. So
It's a lot funner in the offseason coming off of like a 9-win year compared to last year when you were 5-7. Nobody's talking about you. Like Carolina is on list. Lenore Sellers being talked about with Heisman, being a first-round pick. Like it's a lot more fun when people actually care about your team outside of the bubble here in Columbia.
oh yeah, without a doubt. Nationally, they're talking about us and talking about different players and how well people think we're going to do. I think we'll do well. We just got to we got to make sure we store up that defense a little bit on the line and all that. So.
Well, you were telling me earlier you'd seen that Dylan Stewart was on the cover, one of the players and coaches on the cover of the new college football game, though. So, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like you said, there's a lot to replace, but when you've got two of the best players in the country at two of the most important positions coming back with Dylan at edge and of course, Lenore Sellers at quarterback, that has to give you a good bit of confidence going in.
Oh, without doubt. I think they're level-headed and they're serious about what they do, and I know they'll have a great year without a doubt, and they'll make other players a lot better around them, like great players do, right?
Did you ever play the game at all yourself?
Football?
At the College Football 25
Video game.
Oh,
Video
no, I
game.
have not. I need to.
No. Sorry.
Yeah, look at my
That's
size. I
fine.
played college,
Hey, you never know.
No, Delbert Garland dropped me on my head in practice at junior varsity football, and I had a concussion that wouldn't go away. We didn't know it was concussion. It was called ring your bell back then. And it's like, yeah.
They probably told you to get back in there.
My
too,
career
right?
was like, oh yeah, the whole practice. I kept yawning the whole time, but that's my brain going to sleep apparently.
Well, the video game's a lot safer, I promise.
I need to start playing it, but I'm afraid if I start playing it, then I might not get any work done. I
It-
just
it
be so
will-
addicted to it.
I had to step away, honestly,
Yeah.
because I didn't play games anymore. I was like, well, I'm going to play this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, started shaking a little bit when I didn't play. I was like, I need to step away from this.
We'll be
But
texting Larry like, hey, you coming to the next live show in Orangeburg? He's like, I got the SEC title game.
Yeah, I got
guys.
title game.
I got a dynasty going on right now.
I am going to try though, but I am afraid. I can get addicted to stuff
Yeah,
like that,
that's my worry.
competitive, and
It'll hook you quick, I promise.
So
Yeah.
for sure.
But as always, we appreciate you letting us hang
Hey,
out once again.
I can't thank y'all enough. Thank over here and customers and staff. So thank y'all always for what y'all do.
It's been a fun morning. We'll be out at another one coming up next month. Halftime show with myself, Terry Ford, coming up next as your Thursday rolls along here on the game.